Synopsis. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was a television program that originally began airing in 1968. It was a reasonably obscure television show that many people who saw only had a foggy memory of now, due to the fact that the show stopped airing sometime in 2010. Perhaps the only remnant of this memory being Mr. Rogers himself, the bright and always seemingly cheery man who always talked to the viewer in his very pleasant tone of voice full of trust and friendliness. Every half-hour episode basically runs like this. They always begin with the camera scrolling throughout the neighborhood, before cutting to Mr. Rogers entering his house and singing his opening song, "Won't You Be My Neighbor?" while hanging his coat and taking off his shoes. After the opening sequence, Mr. Rogers begins to talk to the viewer about various subjects. It differs in each episode, from crafts to moral lessons and maybe even little experiments. The show is then punctuated by a puppet segment showing a random situation occurring in the show's fictional setting, the neighborhood of make-believe, involving mostly, if it already wasn't, self-explanatory puppets. Each episode's closing sequence usually involves Mr. Rogers putting his clothes back on and leaving the house while singing another song. Before he leaves, however, he turns to the viewer and tells them something. "You always make each day a special day. You know how, by just being you, yourself. There's only one person in the world that's like you, and that's you. And people can like you just the way you are." He then leaves the house with the closing credits playing with the model of the neighborhood panning in a reversed version of the opening sequence's pan. That's basically how every episode goes. So how does a bright and friendly children's show have to do with a lost episode? The conflict episodes. The conflict episodes were 5 episodes. They haven't been rerun since 1996. They didn't have any blood or anything stupid like that in other lost episode creepypastas. The themes in each of these episodes were very off from the normal child-friendly themes seen in normal episodes, and the plots of these episodes were just simply abnormal. Episode 1521, November 7th, 1983. Mr. Rogers begins the episode attempting to solve some kind of fit-the-pieces puzzle with a little help from the viewer. Afterwards, in the puppet sequence of the show, the king of the neighborhood, King Friday, wants to purchase a record player for the local school when he notices a strange delivery being made to a factory owned by a beaver puppet named Corny. King Friday eventually finds out that Corny is manufacturing some things for Southwood, another neighborhood close to make-believe. He orders another human character named Handyman Negri to purchase one of the parts from Corny, who, when questioned by the handyman about the costliness of the parts, replies by saying that the people of Southwood have always been willing to pay the price. Later, King Friday's son, Prince Tuesday, returns from school, where he has been, coincidentally, learning about countries and wars. Prince Tuesday asks his father if there has ever been a war in the neighborhood, to which his father assures his son that the past few generations have been nothing but peace. Prince Tuesday's question spikes his father's paranoia, making him wonder if the parts that Corny was receiving were bomb parts. The episode ends with Mr. Rogers playing some kind of coin drop game where he attempts to drop coins inside these circles written on a piece of paper. Afterwards, he shows a movie that depicts food and supplies being deployed from a military aircraft. Episode 1522, November 8th, 1983. Mr. Rogers shows a quarter and a nickel that he has in a small coin purse. The coins were made in the same year he was born, 1928. Viewers are invited along with Mr. Rogers as he visits a place that manufactures coins and is given a tour of the facility. Later, King Friday begins asking other characters what he should do about the possibility of Southwood manufacturing bombs. He eventually decides to ask Corny if his piece is part of a bomb, who responds with, "Well, of course it might be. But I doubt that it is. I mean, why would anybody want to order that many bombs? I'm making 1 million of those parts." King Friday's paranoia eventually takes over, resulting in him ordering Corny to make 1,000,000 of the same parts and have everyone in the neighborhood help to make their own bombs. Despite being uncomfortable with the idea of an all-out war, Handyman Negri follows King Friday's orders. Episode 1523, November 9th, 1983. Mr. Rogers opens the show by demonstrating how a braille machine works. He also visits a cave and some kind of store for percussion instruments on the way there. Meanwhile, in the neighborhood, two characters named Lady Elaine and Lady Aberlin attempt to prove King Friday wrong about the possible war threat by spying around Southwood to find out exactly what the parts are being used for. Back in Prince Tuesday's school, however, the tides have turned for the worse, and the children are already being taught about how to use both air-raid shelters and gas masks. At the castle, war is already about to start, with King Friday appointing generals and arming them with the recently constructed bombs. Episode 1524, November 10th, 1983. Mr. Rogers is seen playing with colored building blocks and making a bridge out of them. He then proceeds to take out marbles, explaining what people use marbles for. Lady Elaine and Lady Aberlin finally figure out that the parts Southwood were making was not for making bombs, but for making a bridge. King Friday becomes embarrassed about his own judgment and declares that his generals are not generals of peace. The ending of this episode contains an out-of-place message told by Mr. Rogers. Unlike the normal endings, Mr. Rogers has no expression whatsoever on his face, not like himself at all throughout the message. He then sighs and tells the viewer his almost spine-chilling ending message before leaving. Rules are very, very important, not just for games, but for all things, even big things like countries. Countries have to have rules to protect people, too, and someday you'll be helping to make the rules for your country. I trust that you'll make the best kind you know how. Episode 1525, November 11th, 1983. Both neighborhoods are seen having a celebration of peace after the week's events. The children of the neighborhood begin to sing a song called Peace and Quiet, as a carpenter from Southwood decides to aid the neighborhood school by building a record player. Background. You might be wondering, why the hell would these episodes even be made in the first place? That'd be due to the Cold War, which was going on at the time those episodes were made. During the time, America wanted to use propaganda to teach everybody about the possibility of nuclear war with the Soviets, or just the possibility of nuclear war in general. From here, we can only suppose that these episodes were made for the sole purpose of attempting to educate children about this threat, since it seemingly loomed right around the corner. Since Mr. Rogers was always teaching kids about everyday morals, I guess they thought it'd be a really smart idea to terrify children with the idea of all-out nuclear war with another country. As of today, these 5 episodes aren't present anywhere on the internet or in any media releases of the show. As of today, there's no legal way to obtain any of these episodes unless you somehow manage to get into contact with the people who made the show. Just an assumption. I'd also like to mention one more thing. In the ending of the 5th episode, after the ending credits fade to black, a screen appears showing a quote from the Bible, Isaiah 2:4 to be exact. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning forks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore.